Almost a year ago, I had a comprehensive blood test. When I got the results back, it showed that I had some chronic deficiencies which were causing me to feel unwell. So as a result, it was recommended I take over 50 supplements a day.
50 supplements a day?
I hear some of you cry. And I'll admit it wasn't something that I ever imagined doing, because why would anyone actually need that amount of supplements? And surely we can get what we need from our food. And supplements are a scam after all, aren't they? In this video, I'm going to talk you through the supplements I take and why. I'll discuss this debate of supplements are good, supplements are bad, and why information out there is so confusing and contradictory. I'll talk about if supplements are actually needed and can we get what we need from our food, and hopefully answer some of your questions about supplements along the way, because I'm not sure about you, there's a ton of information out there and it can be so confusing. There's a lot to cover, so let's get stuck in. Okay, before you think I've totally lost the plot with this 51 supplements thing, I just want to let you know it wasn't 51 different supplements. Instead, it was a smaller selection, some of which I took quite a lot of. So by the time I added it all up, it was 51 a day. It's still a lot, I know, but I wanted to let you know. Before I tell you about the supplements that I take each day, I want to give you a backstory of how all this started, just to give you some context. A few years ago, a friend sent me a video by Eddie Hall, who had a blood and stool test. The video was fascinating, and I decided back then, which was in November 2021, that I wanted to do the same tests and see the guy from Eddie's video and have him analyse my blood. At the time, I just started doing YouTube as a job and I was a bit skint. But as my channel grew and my income increased, I emailed Phil Richards, the guy from the video, and I asked him if I could make a similar video to Eddie Hall. At the time, I was feeling unwell. I had intense fatigue, headaches every day, I had irregular periods, stomach issues, and I had depressive episodes, some of which were really not very nice. And when I say really not very nice, what I mean is I felt suicidal, and that feeling didn't happen often, but it definitely happened, and I nearly didn't put that bit in just because it can sound a bit scary, but it's important that I put that bit in because that was how I felt. On a day-to-day basis, I just felt kind of crap, but I felt just about okay to function daily. Well, not really. I went to my doctor who did some blood tests, which all came back normal. When I told people how I felt, then their response would be, well, maybe you work too hard and you need to rest. Or,
don't forget, you're getting older now.
I just knew that something wasn't right. Finally, I saved enough cash to have the blood and stool test, and it would measure vitamins, minerals, hormones, gut biome, parasites, bacteria and fungus. And the tests would check the health of my organs. And oftentimes with tests like this, we'll get the results and then us regular folk will have no idea how to read the results and design an action plan. Because I don't know about you, I don't know what my lymphocyte to neutrophil ratio should be. What about globulin or EGFR? What should my C-reactive protein levels be? And what should I do when my mean corpuscular volume is higher than it should be? The tests I had gave 294 results, over 86 pages, and that's where Phil Richards comes in. Phil is a clinical nutritionist and performance coach who is qualified to read blood chemistry, understanding the intricate relationship between each of the 294 results. And after analysing the results, Phil then recommended lifestyle changes such as nutrition, self-care and exercise, and then supplements based on my results. The day that Phil talked me through my results was, well, there's no other word for it apart from life-changing, quite literally. You can watch the video about that up here. Now you know the backstory, I'll talk to you about what supplements I take and why. Here are the reasons that I wanted to have my blood test. And here are some of the results that came back. And some people might be able to see a correlation between the way that I was feeling and my test results. Even though this list here doesn't look that good, then there were some positive results that came back too, which I'll put on screen. In the morning, I take vitamin C, creatine, glutamine, taurine, and progesterone gel in the second part of my menstrual cycle. I'll explain what each of these does after I've talked through the whole plan. When I exercise, I have an amino acid drink with beetroot, and I've never used a workout drink before, so was interested to learn the science behind them. With breakfast, I take a multivitamin and mineral without iron, an iodine supplement, and I've got a fascinating story about this one, which I'll explain later. Vitamin D with K2, high dose magnesium, mixed tocotrienols, which is vitamin E, fish oil capsules, krill oil capsules, a garlic capsule, HCl and pepsin, and the last one, which was quite a surprise to me, and that's lithium aurorate. Lithium, isn't that what batteries are made of? I will explain. Before my evening meal, I have the same concoction to the morning, but without the creatine. With my evening meal, I take the same supplements as with breakfast, but with no iodine. And at bedtime, I have slow release vitamin C, high dose magnesium, and more progesterone gel used in the second part of my cycle. And I've actually started taking Apigenin recently as well, because my supplement plan is changing, and I'll explain why it's changing as we go along. So I take 17 different supplements, still can't believe it, but by the time I've taken multiples of some, that's 51 supplements a day. And I'm not sure what you think about that list, but when I first saw it, I was shocked. My first thoughts were, how can it be that anybody needs so many supplements? And is taking this amount good for me? And is it safe? And one thing that was a huge concern was, how much was this going to cost me? I know you can't really put a price on health, but that looked like a pretty expensive list. I'll talk about the cost of all of this and if it's actually made a difference later in the video. And with me taking 51 supplements a day, I don't want you to think that I'm doing a Brian Johnson and wanting to live to 120. And for the record, I don't actually think there's anything wrong with that. I admire Brian Johnson and his work, and I actually want to meet him one day and make a video. But at the same time, I think that our visions and our missions are slightly different. Also, with me taking this amount of supplements a day, this isn't me trying to be sensational and doing it just for a video. This is a result of me having been curious about having a blood test in the past. Then when I saw the results in black and white and the chronic deficiencies, and hearing the professional advice that I was given on how I can improve my health, I just decided to turn this into a 12-month experiment. I just threw myself in full pelt to see if doing an extensive supplement plan would actually make a difference, and then I could report my findings back to you guys. Even though I was on 51 supplements a day, I'm not actually on that amount anymore. I'll explain more as we go along. Phil made it clear that the goal isn't to take as many supplements as possible, but instead to take the least amount possible.
If you don't need it, don't take it.
The goal is to get to a place where the body is healthy and functioning well by itself, if it can. It was obvious to Phil when he saw my test results that I was feeling the way I was, and his goal was to get my body working well again by getting some of the nutrients back up to where they should be, with a mixture of food, supplements, and interestingly, self-care and stress management. And I'll explain why it wasn't realistic for me to fill my nutrient deficiencies with food alone when we get to the relevant parts of the video. Now to give details of why I take each of these supplements. The morning vitamin C is to support my immune system and help prevent viruses and infections. And although vitamin C is found in food, supplementation can be good because some supermarket produce has low vitamin C due to mass production growing, overseas transportation, and nutrient poor soil. And our modern day living with stress, toxins and pollutants can deplete vitamin C, so a higher dose would be beneficial for someone like me. Vitamin C isn't made in the body, which is why we need to get it through foods or supplements. And when we ingest it, it only lasts for between 2 to 4 hours in the system. So the dose is spread throughout the day to get a regular supply. On this plan, I take over 5 grams of vitamin C spread throughout the day to get my health back on track. Although creatine is mostly used for exercise performance, it's also excellent for brain fuel, brain health and cognition. And our natural supplies of creatine can be topped up with a supplement. I take 5 grams of creatine monohydrate a day, which supports my new weight training program, which was designed to help me increase my muscle mass and reduce excess body fat, which would then improve my health. And 5 grams is slightly too much for my 61 kilogram body, but I don't mind taking a bit too much and then just weeing out the rest. I have made a video about creatine and my experience with it, which you can watch up here. Come up on your little chair. In the morning, I take glutamine and taurine. Both are amino acids and are included in my plan for a number of reasons. The first reason is a bit of a fancy one. I'm actually going to read it off my script. And it's to upregulate the mTOR pathway, which then promotes muscle protein synthesis. Basically, these amino acids help me build and maintain muscle, which I desperately needed to do. These amino acids, particularly the glutamine, helps keep my gut receptors happy as well, meaning having glutamine before a meal along with my omega-3 fish oil capsules teamed with my nutrient-dense food, the gut picks up that I have everything it needs to function well and be healthy, and then as a result I'm less likely to get cravings throughout the day. And the gut receptor thing is absolutely fascinating, and I recommend this video to learn more. Taking amino acids sounds great, especially as Phil gave a massive long list of benefits of taking them, but it is important to say that there are some people where it's not recommended to take amino acids, so speak to a professional before taking them, and in fact apply that advice to all of the supplements that I talk about in this video, apart from a select few that I talk about at the end. The progesterone gel I take is to top up my low progesterone levels. Low progesterone was causing me to have agonising PMT, and actually PMT feels like an understatement for what I had. So a few days before my period, I would feel like that I was going to explode or implode, or
I don't even know what.
the way I felt was just dreadful. I actually felt like a ticking time bomb, and all this stuff showed up in my test results. Phil could spot it a mile off, and when he pointed all this stuff out and explained it was the reason I felt the way I did, it felt like such a relief. Because before this, I felt as though some of this stuff might be in my head. Maybe I was a hypochondriac, or maybe I was dysfunctional or something. My low progesterone is likely a result of me taking the contraceptive pill for 17 years. And I don't think I've ever had a natural menstrual cycle or a natural period. It's all been based on an artificial contraceptive pill, which is just so bizarre. Since taking the progesterone gel, then my cycle has become regular for the first time in my adult life, which is a bit strange considering I'm 41, and the PMT is gone, which is just incredible. And if there's any women out there who think that you might be low on progesterone and you think, well, it worked for LT, I'm going to go and get some of that magic gel, then please don't go and buy it and start using it based on my experience, because Phil told me how much to use and when to use it, and messing with hormones could get you into a right pickle. And that brings me to my first and most important message about supplements. Using supplements should be a result of having a blood test to find out what our body needs, then having a professional who knows how to read blood chemistry read the results, then give advice on what to take, how much to take, when to take it, and how long for. Just because we take a supplement doesn't mean that we need to take it forever. Some are designed to be taken for just a few weeks or a few months. And I've had some in my plan which have been just like that, and I'll explain that as we go along. Supplements shouldn't be about just walking into a shop and picking something off the shelf based on what we've read in a magazine or heard in a video or podcast. How do we know what our body needs and in what dose without a test? In one sense, we've got the supplements are bad, that debate's going on, which is kind of right. And then on the other side, we've got supplements are good, we've got that debate. And that's almost right. And it's so confusing. There's so much information out there. So what's the answer? Very rarely is the word supplement used with the words blood testing. And I've watched a ton of videos and read so many articles about supplements. Very few talk about blood testing. But one of the few people that does talk about it is Andy Gulpin.
I strongly discourage people from just walking around taking supplementation of antioxidants, especially powerful ones, for no reason. If you have done some testing and you have a good reason to do so, I'm fine. You want to be very careful of doing that unless you have a reason. We don't do that unless we see a reason to do so in someone's markers.
And it's all well and good us watching videos about this doctor's supplement plan or that person's supplement stack. But often these people have the funds and resources to get regular blood work done, which then determines what supplements they need, in what dose, and how long to take it for. They take these supplements for several months. They then do a retest and get feedback and results on what's working or not. But most of us don't have the resources and the funds to do that. But through doing this experiment, it makes sense to me now. How do we know what to take without a test? Without the test, it's just a guessing game or a stab in the dark. And actually, in some cases, taking a supplement can be detrimental to our health. I'd like to give you an example. When I had my blood test, my vitamin D levels were on the floor. The ideal level is between 50 to 90 nanograms per milliliter, and mine was at 22. An easy and realistic way to get my vitamin D levels back up was to use a supplement, because doing it with food and daylight alone was almost impossible, at the very least, very impractical. So therefore, at the start of the plan, I was taking 8,000 IUs of vitamin D a day, and 8,000 IUs is a really high dose, but that reflected what my body needed. So in this case, I think it's a good example to support the supplements are good debate, because I really needed it. In comparison, my friend Mark, who also had a blood and stool test with Phil, his vitamin D came back at 61.9, so he was already in the optimal range, and as a result, he takes a much lower dose of vitamin D. If someone like Mark would have taken 8,000 IUs of vitamin D a day like me, then that would have supported the supplements are bad debate. See what I'm saying here? There's no one size fits all. We can't just walk into a shop, pick a supplement off the shelf, and then just guess the dose we need based on what our friend takes or what a magazine article says or even what our intuition says. This isn't a guessing game trying to match symptoms to supplements. Everybody has got completely different needs, and the vitamin D example was just one example that I could have given out of 294 comparisons between me and Mark. Each of our results was so very different. I strongly believe that the narrative around supplements needs to change, because then it would stop all this confusion and contradictory advice. This needs to be about blood testing, then supplements, to determine what we need, in what dose, in what combination with other nutrients, and how long to take it for. This is a complex web of things, and it's not a one size fits all. And I know blood testing is expensive and not everyone can afford it, but perhaps that needs to change too. But I'm not in charge of all of that. If I had it my way, then blood testing followed by a holistic action plan would be the norm. But, well, that was a massive tangent, but I hope it's making sense. And if you've got any questions about any of this stuff, or you'd like to share your supplement story, then please add it to the comments box. And also, just quickly, I talk about blood testing, but I think nutrient testing can also be done using a hair sample. I'm not sure how it works or how accurate it is, so I've ordered a test and I'm going to do a hair sample and I'm going to compare the results to my next blood test that I do in 2 months. How interesting will that be? Back to the supplement plan. To support my exercise program, which is mostly weightlifting but also running and interval training, I have an amino acid drink when I work out. During the 10 months that I've been doing this plan, I've tried a few different drinks for various reasons. And the most recent one has beetroot in, which improves exercise performance by increasing blood flow to the muscles. Similar to that gut receptor thing, when I have the amino acids when I work out, the receptors in my body detect that the amino acids are in my bloodstream, which then gives better results from the weight training, helping build more muscle and burn excess body fat. It's not a miracle drink that works wonders, but it does help provide small gains to support my ferocious effort exercise program. Next up is the breakfast supplements, which is quite a big list, but I'm no longer taking all of them anymore, and I'll explain why I stopped taking some of them as we go along. The multivitamin and mineral I take doesn't have iron in, as my blood test showed I had enough iron, and excess iron in the body can be detrimental to health. Multivitamin and mineral supplements is a bit of a tricky one because some professionals say take one and others say don't take one. But from what I've learned, the difference between these two debates is that some high street multivitamins, they tend to be low quality and they have this assortment of nutrients in, often containing ones that we don't particularly need. In fact, they can be detrimental to our health. On the flip side, then we can get a multivitamin and mineral that is a high quality and formulated in a way where all the nutrients work together in synergy and don't contain some of those harmful nutrients. So it's a bit of a tricky debate. I take a high quality one. It's just a basic supplement that's going to help fill some of my basic deficiencies. It's not going to work wonders, but it won't work wonders, but it may help, and we'll certainly find out if these supplements have made a difference when I have my blood retest in 2 months, and I'll report back my results to you comparing the before and after of me taking supplements for 12 months. Won't that be interesting? The iodine supplement was to help support my thyroid, as the blood test showed that my thyroid was borderline underactive. This didn't show up on a doctor's test because it was just ever so slightly underactive and not enough for me to need medicine, but enough for me to feel that intense fatigue every day. Phil could see why my thyroid was struggling. It was something to do with my TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone, and T3, and then also something to do with my estrogen to progesterone ratio. In short, it wasn't so much a problem with my thyroid, but it was other deficiencies and an imbalance of hormones that was causing my thyroid to malfunction. This is a great example of working with somebody who knows how to read all of these results together as one big orchestra rather than just reading one result. Taking the iodine supplement made a big difference to the way I was feeling almost instantly. No more fatigue, and I had sustained energy throughout the day. But again, if you had the symptoms that I had and you think that you might have an underactive thyroid, don't just go to the shop and buy iodine for the same reasons that I've been explaining. Get your blood test to find out if you need it and how much you need. Interestingly, I no longer take the iodine supplement, which is still kind of crazy because it made such a big difference to me. But a few months ago, Phil sent me a message to say that when my iodine supplement runs out, don't buy any more, because he's convinced that now certain deficiencies were filled and that now my hormones are more in balance, then my thyroid is functioning better. And I was a bit scared to stop the thyroid supplement only because it was giving such great results. But I haven't been on it for nearly 3 months and I feel great. And it will be so interesting getting my retest in a few months to actually see if my thyroid is better or not. Vitamin D3 and K2 was to fulfill my chronic vitamin D deficiency, which was contributing to the way that I was feeling. And vitamin D comes from sun exposure and foods like oily fish, eggs, red meat and liver. In order for me to increase my vitamin D, I could have sunbathed and also eaten a lot of those foods, but for the amount that I needed, it wasn't really an option. For example, I would have had to eat 8 mackerel fillets a day to get enough vitamin D, and sun exposure is a bit tricky, especially as I live in the UK, which isn't particularly sunny, and I have a desk job, I spend many hours indoors, and I also have very fair skin, which means that I can't be in the sun for very long. Supplementation was a quick and easy way for me to increase my vitamin D levels. Vitamin D, which is actually a hormone, just don't, it's so confusing. It requires other nutrients in order for it to work well in the body. And I tell you this as I hope it demonstrates how complex supplementation can be.
What vitamin D needs as well is magnesium. For vitamin D to be converted from its inactive form to its active form, there's 8 steps. So you can easily end up taking a copious amount of vitamin D, then end up having a chronic magnesium deficiency, which I see pretty much on everyone.
High dose magnesium was to fulfill my chronic magnesium deficiency. Phil said he'd never seen someone with such low magnesium, potassium, sodium and chloride, and wondered how I was managing to function. With magnesium being part of over 300 processes in the body, a deficiency can lead to many health issues. In contrast, taking too much magnesium may also lead to health issues. Many people are deficient in magnesium, but they're deficient to all different levels. So how do we know how much to take? Getting a blood test. Phil recommended I take 2,250 milligrams of magnesium biglycinate a day, which is 225 milligrams of elemental magnesium. Again, it wasn't practical for me to get that amount from food. I could have got 225 milligrams of total magnesium from around 80 grams of almonds each day, but that also means an additional 460 calories. And 460 calories isn't terrible, but at the time I had excess body fat to lose and I didn't have those extra calories to play with. If I was fulfilling my deficiencies from food alone, then I'm already on 8 mackerel fillets a day and now 80 grams of almonds. And that's 2,900 calories a day. And that's just filling vitamin D and magnesium. So perhaps you can see why it wasn't ideal for someone like me to fulfill my deficiencies with food alone, and why in my case it might be that supplements are good. And it's why I get a bit annoyed when I see supplements are bad or supplements are a scam. Probably some of them are, but what was someone like me meant to do? Where, just to let you know, before all of this, I ate a ton of vegetables, so many plants and so many legumes, which according to some professionals, that should have been enough. Yet I still had the chronic deficiencies. So what was somebody like me meant to do without supplements? Anyhow, the amount of magnesium I take now has decreased. The high dose I was taking probably got me to where I needed to be. Plus, my new meal plan includes plenty of magnesium-rich foods to keep my levels optimal. At this point, it's important for me to say that this supplement plan wasn't just about me relying on pills to improve my health. This was also supported by a food plan. Phil weaved in a ton of nutrients into my meals to reflect my blood test results and to fulfill some of the deficiencies, which would give my body what it needed. A great example of this is my blood test showed that I was low in folate, and that was causing my red blood cells to become enlarged. And large red blood cells may sound like a good thing, but it's not. Rather than use a supplement for this deficiency, this is one where Phil knew that he could get my levels back on track with food alone. So he incorporated folate into my food plan with lots of cruciferous vegetables. So Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage and kale. And when I get my retest in 2 months, it'll be fascinating to see if my folate levels have actually increased. Something else that's managed by food and not with a supplement is prebiotics and probiotics. Although my results showed a fairly good gut biome, there was definitely room for improvement, especially as I'd suffered with thrush for 14 years, which was unbearable. And rather than take a probiotic supplement, most of which doesn't even make it to the gut, This was one where the meal plan came in, focusing on creating a healthy environment for a diverse gut biome to grow and thrive. And that was done with plenty of vegetables.
We got approximately, depending on the research you read, around 37 to 60 billion human cells, but we've got almost an equal amount, if not more, of the gut microbiome. If you can get both sets really healthy, well, that's when the organism becomes healthy. That's when we become healthy.
You can watch a video about my meal plan up here, and I've also linked it in the description. And by the way, I've started making my own sauerkraut, which is really good for the gut biome, and I think I'm going to make a video about it. The mixed tocotrienols, which is vitamin E, wasn't something that I was necessarily deficient in, but Phil explained, because I was in a bit of a hole, his words, not mine, this supplement was part of an overall orchestra of supplements to help get me back on track. I took the mixed tocopherols for a few months and now I no longer take it. It was just a short-term thing, something to do with my neutrophil to lymphocyte ratio, and I don't really understand it, but Phil did explain it to me and I'll just follow his lead. The fish oil capsules are for the omega-3 fatty acids and also for the EPA and DHA. Although my blood test showed that my omega-3 was good, Phil said it was actually one of the best he'd ever seen. He still recommended I take omega-3 capsules to keep my levels high. Omega-3 is good for brain health, physical performance, and is also an anti-inflammatory. I'm taking 6 grams of good quality omega-3 fish oil a day, and along with the glutamine, if I take those before a meal, then it's doing that gut receptor trick where my body identifies it's got all the nutrients it needs to be healthy, and then it stops me getting cravings later on. One obvious difference that I've noticed since taking the omega-3 is the improvement in my skin. It's softer and smoother, and I've also had other people comment on my skin as well, which is always nice. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she's on 4 to 6 grams of omega-3 a day as well, and her skin is fantastic. The krill oil was recommended for additional omega-3, and krill oil contains other nutrients that helped get me out the hole. It was just a short-term supplement and I no longer take it because I think I'm out the hole. The garlic capsule was recommended to kill the parasite I had living in my gut, and although this parasite, which is called Blastocytes hominis, it wasn't causing me any issues, at least I don't think that it was, then I didn't really want it, and Phil and I thought that we would give a natural remedy a try rather than taking a parasite medication. And it's going to be fascinating to see if the parasite is still there or not when I get my retest in a few months. And that's the thing here. If I'd have carried on the way that I was with all of my symptoms, then in the future I probably would have just been on a big list of medication. By me having these blood tests and taking these supplements, this is a way of me managing my health, nipping these problems in the bud, rather than it getting to the place where it's irreversible. Dr. Peter Attia explains it well in his book. Modern medicine, or as he calls it, Medicine 2.0, is about getting ill and then taking medicine. But what Attia promotes is Medicine 3.0, taking responsibility for our health and preventing disease so we don't need to take medicine. And I'm not saying medicine is bad, far from, because I know it helps many people. But what if we could implement lifestyle choices and supplements to prevent illnesses and disease, therefore reducing the need for medicine? Because often, by the time medicine is needed, it's too late. With me taking 51 supplements a day, if people ever see it, they're often shocked. And yet, in contrast, many people take a concoction of medicines, and that's perceived as normal. And then there's the people who smoke and vape, eat ultra-processed food, or spend hours consuming other people's lives on a tiny device, not getting enough daylight, human interaction and fresh air. And that's considered normal. I mean, I'm not saying don't do those things. If you want to do them, knock your socks off. But I'm over here eating broccoli for breakfast, walking barefoot and taking some natural remedies to improve my health. And suddenly I'm the weird one. That was another enormous tangent. I don't know where they come from. Let's get back to the supplement plan. The next supplement and blood test result is absolutely fascinating, and it's probably one of the reasons that I had so many of these deficiencies despite eating lots of plants. The test results showed that I had low stomach acid, which meant that the food I was eating wasn't being broken down properly, and that meant that I wasn't absorbing the nutrients. This was all tied in together, and one of the reasons I had so many nutrient deficiencies, it was a complex web of processes that Phil identified.
So a lot of nutrient deficiencies will be because people have got low stomach acid, which is what you had.
Based on this low stomach acid, Phil recommended I take HCl and pepsin. This lack of proper digestion was one of the reasons that I hadn't eaten meat in so many years, because when I did eat it, it would just sit in my stomach. I didn't have enough stomach acid to digest it. And then with me not eating very much meat, that then caused me to become malnourished, which I still cannot believe is a word that used to be associated with me. The HCl and pepsin supplement helped me digest food and absorb the nutrients. And with my new optimal protein, nutrient-dense meal plan, that has helped me rebuild muscle and also lose excess body fat. And again, some professionals say that supplements aren't needed, yet what was somebody like me with low stomach acid, what was I meant to do without supplements? Because I certainly didn't want to take a medication. The HCl and pepsin worked almost immediately because I started eating animal protein and I didn't have any of the digestive issues. And it turns out that I only took the HCl and pepsin for 6 months. I no longer take it anymore because I don't need it. My body is working as it should. Another thing to bear in mind with regards to absorbing nutrients from food and also having nutrient deficiencies is the health of our pancreas. And that's one of the things that this blood test did test for. My pancreas was working well, so it was helping me absorb some of the nutrients. But in contrast, my friend Mark, who I spoke about earlier, when he had his blood test, his pancreas showed that it was struggling. And so therefore Phil recommended that he take digestive enzymes, and that's now helping him absorb some of the nutrients that he was deficient in. So coming back to this, supplements are good, supplements are bad. Digestive enzymes are great for my friend Mark, but digestive enzymes are not needed and probably therefore not good for somebody like me. The next supplement surprised me when I saw it on the list, and that's lithium orotate. My first thoughts when I saw this on the list was, isn't lithium what batteries are made of? And isn't lithium used for bipolar and schizophrenia? Was Phil trying to tell me something? And I'll admit I was a bit concerned about taking it, but the saving grace was I remembered that I'd read about lithium in a Tim Ferriss book years ago. Lithium orotate is different from prescription lithium and is taken in lower doses. And lithium may sound scary, but let me explain. Low-level lithium is naturally found in drinking water and in some foods. And low-dose lithium orotate and lithium aspartate can be used for depression and help stabilise mood. And after me explaining to Phil how I had felt for a long time, then there's no surprise that he recommended I take it. Despite my hesitation for taking it at the start, then this particular supplement has been incredible for me. I'm sure that all of the other supplements teamed together along with the meal plan and the exercises helped, but since taking this one, I feel as though a dark cloud has been pulled from over the top of my head, one that was there for so many years and one that just pressed down on me for all that time. It really did help get me out of the hole, and I'd come to terms with the fact that I was probably going to be in that hole for the rest of my life. Interestingly, as my supplement plan changes and my health improves, then Phil has recommended that I stop taking the lithium orotate. He's convinced that I don't need it anymore because now my nutrient deficiencies have been filled, my hormones are in better balance, and also my gut biome is much healthier, and the gut is our second brain and has a huge impact on our mental health and the way we feel. he says that I don't need it anymore. And I'll admit, I'm a bit nervous about stopping it because it's made such a clear and obvious difference, but he's been right so far.
Do you trust me?
Yes.
Do you trust me?
I trust you.
Before I tell you the results of me taking 51 supplements a day for almost a year and how much all this cost me, and before you head off into the sunset thinking that supplements are great, then I've got something important to tell you. Many professionals I follow, including Phil, make it clear that no supplement is a panacea. They're not the solution to all our health issues and will not act as a miracle cure, despite what the marketing tells us, especially if we're not taking care of the fundamentals. And by fundamentals, I mean sleep, nutrition, exercise, daylight, stress management and self-care. And let's include things like nature, love and social fitness in there as well. And I know the fundamentals aren't as exciting and appealing as taking a supplement because they take effort and discipline compared to a supplement which is often sold as a quick fix. But if we're not taking care of the fundamentals, then taking a supplement is just going to disappear into the abyss. Doing the fundamentals could get us to 70 to 90% of where we need to be in terms of health. Then blood work and supplements could fill in the gaps and get us to 90 to 100%. So although this video is me explaining my supplement plan, it's just one thing that I'm doing as part of a web of things to help improve my health. A great way of taking care of the fundamentals is getting outside for daylight, nature and movement. I enjoy wearing Vivo barefoot shoes. They're more than just a shoe company and encourage creating long-term health habits from the feet upwards. If you want to try Vivo barefoot shoes, use LauraTry15 for 15% off. For the sleep supplements, liposomal vitamin C is slow-release vitamin C. So rather than getting 2 to 4 hours of a standard vitamin C, this release is slower throughout the night to support my body. High-dose magnesium was to fill my deficiency, and it's great taken at night to calm the nervous system. Although, like I mentioned earlier, that dose has now been reduced. And then the progesterone gel, which is used in the second half of my cycle. And using it in the second half has got something to do with the 28-day cycle of female hormones. I don't really understand it, but I'm learning. I've always slept well before taking these supplements, but my goodness, since taking them, sleep has gone to the next level. And by next level, I mean I get in bed, I'm asleep, I stay asleep all night, I wake up, get up, and I feel great. I have got a very good sleep routine though, which I know helps. Hey Siri, turn night scene on. And I can tell my sleep has improved because I've been tracking it for 2.5 years. And I use the Ultra Human Ring, which tracks sleep, heart rate variability, recovery, and lots of other stuff. It's a clever bit of kit. I've linked it in the description with a discount code. And so that's my supplement plan. It's probably not perfect, and I say that as I know that there's going to be some people in the comments saying this and saying that. There is no perfect plan or no perfect solution. There's only ways for us to improve, and that can sometimes mean making trade-offs. Despite me saying that taking supplements should be a result of having a blood test, then there are some supplements that most people can take without having a blood test. And I get this information from the people that I learn from, like Phil, Huberman, Atia, Patrick. A basic supplement plan would be a well-formulated, high-quality vitamin and mineral, vitamin C, magnesium, creatine, omega-3, and vitamin D3 and K2 for those that don't get a lot of sun exposure. And I haven't mentioned how much of these things to take because everybody's so different depending on where you live, what your job is, how much stress you have, what you eat, what your current state of health is. All different things will require different doses. My mum, who's 77 and eats the same meal plan as me, she takes a multivitamin and mineral, vitamin C, creatine, omega-3 and vitamin D3 and K2. I'm yet to get her on magnesium. My dad, who's 72 and does the same exercise program as me, he takes a multivitamin and mineral, magnesium, creatine, omega-3 and turmeric. And we've yet to discuss vitamin D and K2. I'd love for both my mum and my dad to get a blood test done with Phil, and if that happens, expect a video. If you're wanting advice on supplements, then I've linked to Phil's website in the description. This man is an absolute genius. A couple of supplements to avoid, which, unless you've been told by a professional to take them, are iron and calcium. And it's common for low energy to be associated with low iron. However, excess iron in the body can be harmful to health and feed viruses and pathogens. It's common to think that taking a calcium supplement will strengthen bones. But the issue with a calcium supplement is the excess calcium, instead of going to the bones, it will deposit and calcify in the blood vessels, and that can cause serious health issues. Get calcium from food instead. It makes me wonder why calcium supplements are even made. Your guess is as good as mine. With me taking 51 supplements a day, you may be wondering how much all this cost me. And it was something that I was concerned about at the start of this plan. And bear in mind, after me seeing the results and then deciding to go all in on this for 12 months to see if this actually makes a difference and to report back to you, Phil and I agreed to just throw everything at it. At the start, I was spending about £280 a month on supplements. I know that's a lot of money and it's not realistic for many, but as I explained, I just wanted to go all in just to see if doing this does actually make a difference. The cost per month has since decreased because I'm no longer taking as many supplements, but it's still costing me around £150 per month. And then as my health improves, then I'm hoping that the monthly costs will decrease. I'll let you decide if you think spending £2,700 in 1 year on supplements has been worth it. I certainly know my answer. What's been the result of me taking all these supplements and spending all that money for the last 10 months? This supplement plan worked quickly, and within just a few weeks, the way that I felt had improved dramatically. I no longer had any headaches. I had improved and sustained energy throughout the day. No more brain fog, it had been replaced with clear thinking. My menstrual cycle became more regular with no more awful PMT. The depressive cloud that I'd been under for so many years had finally lifted, and supported by the food and exercise plan, I've gained muscle and lost fat. I just feel like a brand new person, as in brand new, like I've been given a second chance at life. But the only way I'll really know if all of this has made a difference is when I do my retest in 2 months, and I'll be making a video about that, which is going to be mega. Hope all this made sense and that you found it valuable. Thanks for watching.